The Lighthouse of Lost Souls stood stoically on the desolate cliffs, its towering form a silhouette against the stormy sky. As I approached the weathered structure, a palpable sense of isolation wrapped around me like the chill of the relentless sea breeze. The air was thick with the haunting echoes of tales passed down through generations, stories of ships lost at sea, of souls adrift in the inky abyss, seeking solace in the ethereal glow that emanated from the lonely beacon. The gravel crunched beneath my boots as I reached the entrance, the heavy door groaning on its rusted hinges as I pushed it open. The interior was dimly lit, the feeble glow of a flickering lantern casting long shadows on the worn wooden walls. The air inside was heavy with the scent of dampness and salt, as if the very essence of the sea had permeated the lighthouse's time-worn timbers. My footsteps echoed through the narrow corridor as I ascended the spiraling staircase, each creaking step revealing the history etched into the walls. The lighthouse had stood sentinel for centuries, its beam cutting through the inky darkness, a guardian for sailors navigating treacherous waters. But legends whispered that it was more than just a guiding light. It was a haven for lost souls, a beacon that drew in those adrift in the sea of the afterlife. As I climbed higher, the sound of the crashing waves below grew more distant, replaced by the haunting melody of the wind whistling through the lighthouse's time-worn beams. The walls seemed to sigh with the weight of the countless stories they held, tales of sailors who had sought refuge in the glow of the beacon, hoping to find their way home in the afterlife. Reaching the top, I stepped into the chamber that housed the great lantern. The room was circular, adorned with a panoramic view of the tempestuous sea below. The lantern, encased in its glass chamber, emanated a soft ethereal light that danced with the shadows cast by the storm outside. It was said that this light had the power to pierce through the veil between the living and the dead, a conduit for lost souls seeking redemption. As I gazed out across the roiling sea, the storm intensified, waves crashing against the cliffs below with an almost mournful rhythm. The lighthouse seemed to come alive, its ancient machinery groaning into action as the beam of light pierced through the tempest. It swept across the inky blackness, a lifeline for ships navigating the treacherous waters, but also a siren's call for those lost souls yearning for salvation. In the mesmerizing glow of the lantern, I felt a presence, an otherworldly energy that permeated the very air. The lighthouse was alive with the souls of the lost, their whispers carried by the wind that rattled the time-worn windows. Each gust seemed to carry fragments of untold stories, of sailors who had met their watery demise, seeking refuge in the comforting glow of the beacon. As the storm outside raged on, the tales of lost souls unfolded before me. I saw spectral figures walking through the chamber, their translucent forms weaving through the beams of light. These were the souls who had found their way to the lighthouse, drawn by the promise of redemption and the chance to traverse the tumultuous seas that separated the living from the afterlife. A particularly vivid apparition materialized before me, a weathered sailor, his gaze haunted by the tragedies of the sea. His voice, a soft echo on the wind, spoke of a shipwreck, of being lost in the churning waves. He recounted how, in his final moments, the distant glow of the lighthouse had offered a glimmer of hope, a beacon guiding him to the realm beyond the mortal coil. Driven by an inexplicable compulsion, I approached the lantern. As I extended my hand, the ethereal glow seemed to respond, flickering and dancing in a dance of recognition. The lost souls gathered around, their presence intensifying as the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred. The sailor's gaze met mine, gratitude emanating from his spectral eyes. In that moment, I became a conduit for the lost souls' stories. Their whispers intertwined with the wind, their tales merging into a chorus of redemption. The lighthouse, once a solitary beacon cutting through the storm, became a symphony of the afterlife, a bridge between worlds where lost souls found solace in the company of those who shared their fate. As the storm outside began to subside, the lantern's glow softened. The lost souls, their stories told and heard, began to ascend in a spectral procession. The lighthouse, now bathed in a serene light, seemed to exhale a collective sigh of release. The sailor, his gaze now serene, nodded in gratitude before joining the ethereal parade. I descended the staircase, the weight of the lighthouse's history lingering in the air. The heavy door groaned shut behind me, sealing the secrets of the lost souls within. The storm had passed, and the sea below whispered its gratitude, the waves now gentle, as if the tempest had been quelled by the tales of redemption within the lighthouse. As I stood on the cliffs, the first light of dawn painted the horizon. The Lighthouse of Lost Souls stood silent, a solitary figure against the emerging day. The stories of the lost souls lingered in my thoughts, a reminder of the mystical encounter within the time-worn walls. The beacon, now dimmed, continued its silent vigil, ready to guide the living and offer solace to those adrift in the sea of the afterlife.